Hello everyone, it's your 7th favourite VCT EMEA caster, HazzaJC here, for another Pick'ems video. With a return to the in-game client, I thought no better time than to jump on ahead and give you a quick look at who I think is going to make it out of the Swiss stage for Toronto. The last time we did this was for Champion Seoul. That was back at the end of last year, and we ended up doing pretty good, right? We got the Master Gongi Buddy, the golden one. I think that was like top 25, 20% maybe. I mean, I'll put it up on screen, whatever it was, but we did okay. So hopefully we'll be able to get the bonuses for this one. We've got the top 50 Sweet Victory Buddy, whatever this is, the golden one as well, and the Perfect Picks title. Nobody got that last time in the whole world. I'd be surprised if we get it this time either. But let's just dive in. It's going to be quite EMEA-centric in terms of where I'm basing my opinions. As you can already see, for some reason, MIBR is in here. How do I get rid of that? But we're going to start off with the bracket, go over the opening round of games, and then the rest is kind of guesswork as to who plays who. For this event, in terms of returning faces, we have Liquid, Sentinels, and G2 who are already waiting in the playoff bracket. And when you compare it to kickoff last year, we've seen one less team be able to make that jump, which leads quite nicely into our first game. Heretics and Paper X were both teams that made it to every single international global event that we saw last year. Heretics, of course, making the Champs final, and well, the two other teams, Gen.G and EDG, event winners. Something which Heretics weren't able to themselves replicate, but looking at the historical aspects leaning into this first matchup, I definitely want to say that for Heretics, their story was always being able to bounce back from not the best results domestically and then go on these, really nice runs late into the competition at both Masters Shanghai and then also Champion Seoul as well. For Paper X, I see them as a very momentum-based team. I think a lot of people felt that with the PRX hype train, which departed not so long ago. I was one of the many people who was a little bit skeptical about their chances to actually make a global event this year. Now, I definitely think that both of these teams are going to benefit massively from the amount of time off that they get. Paper X especially, considering that their season after qualification ended a lot sooner than the teams in EMEA. For Heretics, they did feel initially like the best hope that we were going to have regionally with their undefeated group record as well. But then coming out of those matches with Fnatic, things drastically changed quite quickly. But yeah, look, PRX have additional support. Mini was working with them quite a lot. I think we saw improvements with their Lotus over time. That's going to be a big map between the two. In terms of the map pool changes that we've seen too, Heretics are one of the big winners where Fracture departs, their result being 0-2. Sunset comes in and proves an opportunity for them to add in a map which was a key part of their pool last year, right up until the grand final where they ended up conceding it to EDG. And the same could be said for Paper X as well. They didn't have a crazy record on it or anything, but then Sunset coming in with Fracture leaving, that was a map which they sort of pioneered, at least compositionally, throughout last year. So definitely a positive for both, but I still have Heretics edging this one out, and they'll take the first win in my eyes. Next up, BLG Liquid. Honestly, this feels really 50-50. I'm going off the idea that Nats is going to be subbed out for this one, with Penny coming in, also proving a really interesting stat line, as his return to a global event is the longest wait between events that we'll have seen since he debuted with version 1 way back when in 2021, which is a really cool story for him individually. But for Liquid, they do look a lot weaker. They're without their IGL, their main Sentinel player. Serial's going to be having to fulfill that role. Maybe it means a pivot away from some of those double Senti comps that we've seen them running as well, and already toying away from, I suppose, in other qualifiers. Speaking of qualifiers, BLG obviously played in the Asian Champions League as well, another EWC qualifier. Didn't look too hot there. I think there was definitely a step up from their performance in comparison to Wolves domestically, but then the bigger picture in my mind is, can they fairly represent the Chinese region when we just saw EDG win last year, but then have the Champions curse and not be able to make it back to this Toronto event after Bangkok and actually looking pretty decent in playoffs? How big is the gap between them and XLG, the Ascension side? These are all things that I want to know, and honestly, I could see them stealing a win here, but for me, I feel like this is the one that gets Liquid on the board early doors. They've been very good with their prep work so far in terms of bringing ideas to their pistols, their setup, how they're going to be, you know, ready for a team like BLG when you've got a duelist such as YZ that's going to be flying in and going crazy. So I think Liquid can manage to mount the task of this first game, but beyond that, that's where I probably have a few more issues with them. Moving on to Sentinels against Wolves. For me, I would say that Sentinels are just a class above in terms of quality here. They proved that they are able to qualify to back-to-back events, which is absolutely huge for them, where they failed to do so from Madrid to Shanghai last year. They've been able to here, where, you know, you've seen a lot more of that volatility across the board internationally. Foot missing out on this one as well from EMEA to sort of bring it back to home. It was kind of crazy, but I think Sentinels are a team which have also made changes coming into this calendar year. Bang and Narrate seemingly fitting pretty nicely, and I just have confidence that in terms of pure firepower here and how Wolves looked towards the end of that playoff bracket after securing top 3, I just don't feel too confident that the boys from Wolverhampton can bring this one home. So Sentinels is kind of an easy shoe-in for me, at least. Then for what I would consider to be the most difficult one to predict in the whole of this opening round, Gen.G versus MIBR, two teams which I think look really scary, and I would be surprised if they weren't some of the top options to at least be moving through the bracket. The one difference I would place here, though, is in terms of experience. And while MIBR have Aspas, who I think can be this insane hyper carry, always, you know, super highly rated, both regionally and then in these international events, which we've had to wait a little bit to see him return to. Feels like the last time we got Aspas was in Seoul, which was the last time I did a Pick'ems video like this. So, you know, kickoff always keeps you waiting. The format, I think, naturally leans into there being a few more upsets slash teams not necessarily making that top cut, and that was sort of the gamble that he made moving into this team. Yeah, it's a new one for them. I can't see them coming out of the gate swinging. I would probably say that Gen.G are a little bit more comfortable here. In some ways akin to when we saw that Korean-Brazilian matchup of Gen.G versus Loud at the beginning of Masters Madrid over a year ago now. So I'd put Gen.G moving forwards here. That's just my personal feelings for this opening round. So, moving on to who advances, I'm going to work this one backwards because now in the client with Swiss, which is different to obviously the Champs group format we had last time, you get to pick an undefeated 2-0 team as well as the other 3 teams that you think are going to move through. So this is worth bonus points, a great chance to increase your odds of getting your hands on the buddy, right? The gold buddy, whatever it is, the maple syrup, I don't know. I'm going to hit that one last, but let's start off. It's already locked in here. Why not? Heretics. I think they've got what it takes to bounce back. You're expecting to see them in a playoff stage. I don't feel like the gap in quality between them and Fnatic is as much of a chasm as it presented in that grand final back in stage 1, honestly. It's definitely going to take some work from their side. Neil Zinho posted out on Twitter as well saying that this is the first time he's really felt disappointed in the squad. But with the players that they have, this now being their sophomore year, their return to an international, I have complete faith that they can right the ship and course correct here. In general, you are talking about players who literally only just last year made their debut at this level, but have already come on leaps and bounds. This year is potentially the last year that you will see this 5 play together, should they not be able to find further success, I suppose. It's always been a long-term project, but I trust that they can lock in here. So I'm going to put Heretics as my first team. Second team I have advancing is, of course, going to be Sentinels as well. They have looked consistent so far. Makes sense. I've already given my rationale looking through the opening round of games. Kind of a question of who they get placed up against, but We'll just have to see. Ultimately, 2 teams will be going to O here. It's not going to be a case that there's only one correct option. I think Sentinels are probably a fairly decent choice for people here as well, as Americas has shown at times that they have consistently put out multiple top contenders. You even look regionally, Evil Geniuses had a really nice run and have proved to many people how good they can be. I mean, same in EMEA with BBL, to be honest, and the fact that they were able to then make EWC afterwards. It was nice to see, because even though it's not a Masters, it was that chance at retribution, which they got almost immediately afterwards. In general, EMEA has been weaker. I think Americas is looking better on the whole. Sentinels feels like an easy choice, and I'm immediately going to follow that up with MIBR as well. In terms of that top 3, the teams outside of G2, which at times have been playing almost perfect Valorant, that is what they're aiming for. A coach will always tell you there is no perfect round. So many variables that can change, but honestly, these top 3 teams do feel fairly secure, fairly nailed on, I think, especially looking towards Paris at the end of the gauntlet as well. So I'd be quite happy to put those in, which means that my final team, my 2-0 undefeated pick, is going to be Gen.G. Maybe I'm crazy for this one. You know what? I'm going to pivot. I'm going for the Gen-Sen pivot. I think Sentinels probably are just a little bit cleaner right now. For Gen.G, though, I think they're still going to qualify. There are a couple of concerns that I have with them in regards to Foxy9 on Sentinel, where I think, look, we always saw that his best work was on the duel list, and Ash coming into this being their first global event that we've seen from them. Numbers maybe looking a little bit weaker in those last couple of matches against RRQ, but otherwise, we need Texture to perform. That's kind of what I'm expecting. As long as he's getting 4Ks and not getting aces, like, it's all good. But I think this is the top 4 I go with regardless. Whichever way you spin it, these are the teams that I'd be aiming with. I just feel like Sentinels maybe is a little bit more comfortable of a 2-0 pick. So that's what I'm going to go with. Look, this is a very short video. I'm going to be back for playoff picks as well, and I will bring some company with me that time to give some alternative takes, see if we can go back and forth on a few things. But just wanted to give my take before we head into this one. I'm also going to be watch partying at least the first couple of days of competition, so make sure to follow my Twitch. Check out some of the interviews that I put out recently. I was able to sit down with G2 Mimi from VCT Game Changers EMEA and also BBL Profec from VCT EMEA. So both interviews that you want to go check out, about 40 minutes worth of content there. Subscribe if you haven't already. Once again, thank you for all of your support. I hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy Toronto. We are so back.